My name is Krastel. I live here in Sioux City, or not here, but I live in Sioux City, Iowa. I served in the Army for 11 years, 5 active, 6 reserves, and exited the rank of staff sergeant. One of the things that brought me to FUAN was when I was in the Army, I got married. And like many soldiers, I was divorced shortly after my time leaving the military, but still nonetheless. We were living in Arizona. My daughter was born in Arizona, and unfortunately, after we separated, she came here, which caused me to end up following suit later. The reason why I'm really advocating for this specific verbiage in this bill is it's not because it affects me as much. Right? I'm only 50% disabled. I'm very fortunate in that regard. I can walk, I can do a lot of the things that I'm able to do, but I'm one of the lucky ones. There's a lot of veterans out there that aren't, right? The 100% disabled. And a lot of people know there's actually 2 types of 100% disabled. There's the 100% disabled that you get paid out at 100%. The second one, you end up getting a little bit less, but you're able to work, you're able to do a lot of the things that other veterans aren't always able to do. In those cases, though, when you file for your veteran status and your dependents, because you get paid for everything. You get paid for your spouse, you get paid for all of your dependents. But one of those negating items is if that child doesn't live with you over 50% or 50% or more of the time, you do not get to claim them, so you don't get to collect benefits on that child. That's a federal law. But we don't get to change that, right? As a state, we are stuck with only the things we can change. So this is why this is so important. If we can't claim that child, and then additionally, our child support is going to reflect that child and that income, now that we're double dipping into that income, and now that's being even more detrimental to somebody that may not even be able to work. All right. Now, of course, Social Security is really what we're trying to model it after. We know that Social Security can be affected. It's just done differently. And so we're not asking for our disability to not be considered. We're just asking for it to be considered fairly. And that's really what this bill does. And that's why I really want to push for it. Not for myself, like I said, it doesn't bother me. I mean, I'm fortunate. I'm very lucky in that regard. There's a lot of soldiers that aren't as lucky, whether they, I mean, and it's so difficult to watch. Right? I have a very close friend of mine. He's a disabled Marine, and he gets to see his child maybe once a month. He's 100% disabled, and I think it's 20% of his income ends up going to the spouse, and all of his income is from them. Now that doesn't seem like a lot, but with somebody who has to live off the state, who has to take in taxpayers' additional funds so that he can afford to pay that child support, what are we doing? What good does that do? These are the reasons that I came to FUAN. I had my own legal battle. I have my representation, thank goodness. I'm one of the fortunate ones. This is why I'm pursuing law school. This is why one day, maybe one of you guys will have to take me on head on. I don't know. But this is what I long for. This is what I want to fight for. I can't fight for the country anymore, but I sure as heck can fight for my veterans. And this is a great way to do it. So I really hope that this brings to light some of the issues that maybe people didn't even think about. I know that when we had a conversation earlier, you didn't even know that you couldn't even claim that dependent. So that's something that, I mean, I don't even know if the legislators do that. You can't claim that dependent, but you're going to get charged for it twice. So,
are you talking about you can't claim if you don't have 50%?
If you don't have 50% or greater, you can claim. I'm not talking about disability. I'm talking about your dependents.
For VA, but you're not talking about deduction of your tax.
No, this is completely separate, right? So the VA, what they do is they have different categories. You get your disabled veteran, and then your disabled veteran with dependents. When you have dependents, they factor every single one. Your spouse, children, and each one gets added on additionally. A good example at 50%, but I think it's actually, I get paid 40% for 50% rated. It's $63 a child is what I get paid for my disability. Now that $63 a child doesn't seem like a lot, right? But when my child support is factored in and that 63 is actually factored into it, then now I'm charged twice. That's not fair. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't pay our fair child support. I completely advocate if you are a parent, regardless of your situation, you have a financial obligation to that child, no matter what. And I don't think anybody here would argue that that isn't fair. What we are going to argue is that we want it to be calculated fair.
So my understanding is correct that right now Social Security is figured one way, but VA disability is figured a different way, and that's where we're having. We're trying to even it out to the same payments between Social Security and disability rather than choose different scenarios.
So Social Security is factored in a little bit differently, whereas VA disability is true income, right? And like I said, people like me, we're lucky. We get to have a job and collect that income, which does help, right? We have to go to our benefits. I just came in as a voc rehab. For those of you that don't know, vocational rehab is if you can't do your job anymore because of your injuries. I was in construction. I got my degree in that. I can't do that anymore. Now I'm getting paid to get the VA is paying to put me through law school. Great opportunity. Allows me to actually speak and do all the things that I'm passionate of. It kind of puts me on the course that I wanted to do anyway. But throughout that process, we're not even talking about that income, right? We're not talking about the income from your tuition assistance. We're not talking about the income of other situations, right? That's not at all covered. Disability income is specifically for your service-connected disabilities that you earned by sacrificing yourself. If the federal law won't allow me to claim that child that I don't have 50% or more, why am I having to charge it additionally, right? Even if they changed it to where that we could claim it, I would be okay with it at that point, right? Who wouldn't? But we can't. And in this state, we can only change the things that we can change. And I'm sorry, the federal government's a heck of a lot slower than we are. So let's change what we can, and then let's attack it, because this needs to be done. So one of the things, I just want to say thank you to the legislators for showing up, senators and representative. It is very important that you guys are here. This isn't a party issue. We have Democrats, we have Republicans, we have independents. This isn't a party issue. This is in my opinion, a human rights issue. This is an issue of parents, grandparents, families, that all of us are very passionate about. I mean, I think I heard more emotion from that back row than anywhere else here. And this is one of the few things that all of us get to deal with in the legal field. I'm not there yet, but in the legal field, this is one of the very few items that has this much passion. I mean, you see the shootings, you see the Second Amendment issues that are being brought up, you see the issues at the border. There is a lot of emotion in it, right? And nobody can deny the emotion that it goes with it. But when we're dealing with our very own families, things that matter absolute most to every American in this country, those are the things that are the most worth fighting for, and in my personal opinion, the things that have the least amount of attention drawn to them. I mean, I didn't go into my legal battle because I'm in the middle of it. I know it's probably not the most intelligent thing to do, especially since I know this is being recorded. What I will say is I am the product of a split family. My mother died when I was 10 years old. I didn't see her since after I was 5 years old. She was a drug addict. When she tried to recover, my parents went back to court. And I was told horrible lies about my mother. Horrible things. And when a judge called me into his cabinet, I remember the last thing I said in front of my mother: I hate you, never want to see you again. That night, my mother died. And the sad thing is, I made it okay. My mother never knew that I loved her. She knew that I hated her that day. She died in a car accident on the way home. That is devastating to a child, to a parent, and it's sad. And again, the worst part is it could have all been prevented. Parental alienation, yes, it had a massive impact into this, but it could have all been avoided. Parents could have come together. She recovered from her issues. I hear that back there. You guys, thank you for recovering from such a horrific past. But we need to identify that those pasts don't define our futures. And I appreciate you guys' time. And I really hope that we can get this moving. This next year, 2020, my wife says, is the year for change. And I believe that wholeheartedly. I hope we can push those things forward. And, there's a lot more to be done, even after all of these